This is Support is Sexy, Episode 5, with artist, thinker, and creative Kaira Akita. Welcome to the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, producer, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I talk to women entrepreneurs who share their journeys and the true stories of their wins and their lessons, and give you insight and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. As you know, it just would not be the same without you. So today I am giddy about our guest, Miss Kaira Akita. Kyra is an artist, thinker, and a maker. She has appeared as an actress in films such as Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married? She played Keisha, hilarious, and The Family That Prays. Kyra is also a creative who writes, directs, produces, and designs several personal projects. And she really goes into a lot in this episode just about the things that she's doing personally to evolve as an individual and as an artist. And I found it very inspiring, so I know you're going to love it. On this episode, you'll learn the importance of knowing who you are authentically and how that affects your work. Also, the parts of Hollywood that thrives on fear, which I thought was a very interesting conversation, especially to hear from the perspective of someone who is an actress. You'll also learn how understanding what you think is quote unquote wrong with you is actually what makes you, you. You'll learn also being aware of whether you're being committed to a false identity of yourself. You know, we all talked about being committed to a vision, and we talk about being committed to who we are and all of this, but really, are we being committed to our true selves or a false identity of ourselves? So we dive a little bit into that. You'll also learn about the importance of self-work, and that's something that I am a big proponent of. If you need help, if you need therapy, if you need to talk to someone, get the help that you need. We're all about support around here, and support is, as we say, sexy. So there's no shame, no judgment about it. Do what you have to do to support yourself and take care of yourself. That's what it's all about, self-care and doing the self-work. Lastly, what I really love is something that Kyra mentioned called the inspired interim. You'll hear about that. You're going to love it. I know you will. So without further ado, Miss Kaira Akita. So Kyra, thank you so much for joining us on Support is Sexy. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you, Elayne. I'm so happy to be here. You know, you're one of my favorite people.
Thank you. Thank you. So I have to ask you the first question that I ask everyone. When did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Oh, my goodness. You know, I think before I even knew what entrepreneurship was, I think I was a natural entrepreneur. When I was, ever since I could remember being young, 6, 7, I always thought about things in like a big picture way. Like I always wanted to be able to do something that impacted a lot of people at one time. I just didn't have the language to understand what that was. And I was always a very creative person. I was always writing and performing and creating. So that spirit was always there, even before I could define what it was. So yeah, I think I was kind of born into it.
Kind of just natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Germany, actually.
Oh.
All my family's from DC. And then when I was 4, both my parents were in the military and we moved to Germany. So I lived there until I was 16. Mm-hmm. And then I went to high school in Atlanta, and college in Georgia as well when we came back to the States. So yeah, Germany was really home and where I grew up. And
do you speak German?
Oh, ein bisschen. Ich wohne gleich um die Ecke.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what that says, but it's wonderful.
Girl, it sounded fancy. That's the one thing. Don't let it fool you, okay? I just said a little bit. I live right around the corner.
Okay. The key phrases that you need to know.
The key phrases. You know what? As an adult Black woman, I'm like, oh, how dope would it be if I spoke it fluently? And to be honest, you know, it's where I grew up. We lived off base. So I did live in a German neighborhood, and I was able to, even though we attended American school, I took German all throughout my school career, but I just didn't take it seriously. When I came back to the States, I was just
You
so
lost
excited
it.
to get American culture, and I just lost it. I never used it, so I don't really speak it. But I loved growing up there. It really gave me kind of a global perspective of the world. It just kind of piggybacked on the natural personality that I had. So it was
Mm-hmm.
just such a gift from my parents to be able to have that experience.
That's amazing. And how were you nurtured there? Being, well, I guess being part of the military base, there were other children that were American children. But were you? How did you interact, or how did you immerse yourself in the culture there, if at all?
Oh my goodness. Every part of it, looking back, it was just such a part of my life. I thought it was normal. I
Mm-hmm.
thought everyone had the experience, particularly as, a Black child. I didn't know the difference. I thought everyone had the experience, and just what a blessing. I mean, my parents made sure that, we lived in a German neighborhood. We would, go on ski trips and the walk plots and all the like we were very much ingrained in the culture. And I think from a very early age, living in Europe is a little different. It's a different feeling, the creativity of it. And I think what was so interesting for me too, I didn't know until we moved to the States, and there's such a difference kind of how we deal with racism. We deal with it in a different way.
Right.
I thought everyone knew that Black women were the most amazing thing, because that's
Right.
how I was treated. I'm
Right.
like,
You were like, I knew black girl magic when I was 4 years old.
exactly. Like, we knew that. They loved us and appreciated us, and I just had a wonderful time just with that culture and with the people, and I absolutely loved it.
That's amazing. I love that. Now it's you and you have a sister as well, right?
I do have a younger sister. We're only 18 months apart, so I have dragged her through a lot of my entrepreneurship. So she she loves me, and then sometimes she doesn't.
Right.
So
I hear you. That's how my friends are about me. It's like, oh God, not this talk of this crazy business idea again. Yes, girl, we hear you. Whatever you say.
yes.
So now, who or what were the greatest influences in your life growing up in general?
Hmm. I would say first and foremost, my mother. I mean, my mother is just the first reflection of who I am and what's possible, and just watching her maneuver. As a child, to me, my mom's literally only like 4'11". She likes to tell
Mm.
people she's 5 feet. She's not. She's 11. But she's just always such a big person to me, a tall person to me. She just so creative and vibrant and social. And we would have parties on the weekends for all the military people. Like, our house was that house, and interior design. She was just this creative woman to me that just represent everything that was possible.
Right.
And I saw myself in her. We were so much alike in so many ways. So to me, my mother was a first reflection of what was possible, and who I was, because I could see pieces of myself in her. So she was definitely my first influence.
That's great. And then it seems like, too, you may have gotten some of your creativity from her.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes, definitely, definitely. And my father, he dabbled in photography. Like, I remember we would go to the dark room sometimes on base.
Mm.
This is when everything was film and you
Right.
developed, I remember doing that. One of my favorite pictures of me and my sister, my father took one of my favorite portraits. So I think both of my parents were very creative. My mother's just a little more outgoing, so we had more in common.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that was just always there. And then I feel that as I got older, and I became older and my parents became older, and you see them as people
Right.
and not just parents. I understood that a lot of that creativity and that magic that I saw, that they didn't necessarily pursue that, but they gifted me the possibility of that. So that's one thing that was very important to me, to make a choice that I'm not going to bottle all of this up. I'm going to take a risk and do something with it.
That's great. So, how did that transition from who you became as a child, or who you were as a child, transition into the creative work that you do now?
Girl, it's still transitioning.
does it manifest as to who you are now?
What happened was acting really became the very first thing that I was publicly acknowledged for and that worked. And it was something that I just did all my life. So I've been performing since I was 5, 6 years old. Mm-hmm. So that was very rewarding to me. And it's something that I was good at. And so kind of what happened naturally for me, I didn't really think of acting as a career per se. I went to University of Georgia. I went there to study journalism, but I ended up studying sociology because that journalism school, my grades, I couldn't get in. I was very, I was like, y'all ain't playing. So I studied sociology. And during that whole time, I was always performing. And, I came out of college. I went into the workforce. It was like a year I couldn't find a job. I finally got a job at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, and I was working behind the scenes as an advertising and promotions coordinator. And I realized that I got tired of helping put on the productions behind the scenes, and that if me seeing other people pursue acting professionally as a career, it made me feel like, well, why can't I do that? Maybe I can do that too. Maybe that really is an actual career. And so once I made that decision, from there, the way God had it for me, for my journey, it wasn't long before I literally was doing it. Like, it wasn't even, I hate to say it, but it didn't even feel like it was hard. Like, I was like, yeah,
it just came easily for you.
I'm going to do it professionally. And it happened. I was doing a play for a year in Atlanta, and during that time, I met my now husband. We went to college together, but we didn't really know each other. So I met him on a more personal level, and he was shooting this film and cast me in it. And we went to Sundance, and then BET picked it up as a show. And then the play I was in, Reuben Cannon, who was Tyler Perry's producing partner at the time, had saw me in the show that I was doing and was like, we would love to start calling you in. And I booked Why Did I Get Married, and I booked Family That Prayed. Like, it just happened. I was like, this is easy.
You're like, it's just flowing.
It's easy. Yes, I'm an actress, and this is fabulous. And at that same time, because acting was a piece of me, but I've always been creative and doing other things. I started my own consignment company called A Close Encounter. That did very well. Everything was just flowing so nice. And I was like, oh yeah, this is how it is. This is who I am. This is great. What I learned during that transition, and it really has been a gift. I can look back on it now and say it was a gift. At the time, it wasn't feeling like a gift, but I didn't realize how much of my identity was wrapped up in the things that I did or the things that I could do. Like, who am I separate from that? I never had to separate the two. And so I feel that once I made the move out to LA 5 years ago, that was at, the height of when it should have been easy for me to continue on the track I was going. God was like, nope. Here's what we're not going to do. Like, just nothing. Like, nothing was going the way that I planned it.
Right.
And I realized that God just needed to strip me down a little bit, that the calling of my life is beyond just acting or just, being a creative person in a very kind of small, contained space. I do believe that he's called me to impact the world in a very big way. And he needed me to be very clear on who I am without all of that. So he was like, let's take that away so you have nothing to do but get clear on who you are and why you're here. And then your work becomes something totally different.
That's amazing. What a journey. And then, so it's funny, one of my next questions was going to be that we know you from stage, we know you from acting, we know you from Tyler Perry movies and so much other work. Who is Kaira Akita separate from her work?
Oh, Look at you with the deep questions.
Yes. You were going that way anyway. It just naturally flowed. It's so funny that that was honestly, I'll show you the card. One of my next question is literally what it says.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Um, you know what? I love that I'm in a good space where I've actually done the self work where I have an answer because I think that would have terrified me a couple of years ago that I didn't have the answer.
Mm.
Um, I have what I call a spirit statement for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That connects me to who I am outside of that. So my spirit statement is that I am a creative, courageous woman of God, chosen to give birth to stories, spaces, and systems that impact how we see ourselves, the world around us, and each other. For me, that is so powerful because how I've identified myself before with roles. Oh, I'm an actress. I'm a producer. I was scared to say I was a writer, but I've written all my life. I'm scared to say I'm a writer. I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
The minute that I put those kind of labels on without understanding the identity and the calling, it's like I was just trying to build a house of stuff based on that, trying to prove that or live up to that or not disappoint people or not let people down just to keep. I've always kind of been like a very impressive person. And I don't mean that in an ego way. I mean that just being very self-aware. I've always just been a naturally impressive person, even without me trying. So I felt like a fraud for a long time. Like you're so impressed and I'm just
not even trying, right?
Like I'm not even trying. So I would build all this stuff to prove that I actually had a reason for you to be impressed versus thinking that just who I am is enough. Mm-hmm. But before I really tapped into that spirit statement for myself, it was all me trying to do something on my own versus being curious and being open and knowing that different things flow at different times. When I leave it open in that way, and the only label I define myself as, I say I'm an artist, a thinker, and a maker. That's a new thing for me too, because sometimes it may be acting, sometimes it may be creating content, sometimes it may be in the lifestyle space. I'm very, very interested. There's a reason why I ended up choosing sociology as a major after I couldn't get into journalism school.
Right.
I'm very, very, I'm very passionate about Black culture. So all of that, when I let myself know that I can leave all of that open instead of saying I have to fit these exact roles. So if I'm not successful as an actress right now, then it's easy to get in your head and be like, well, I mean, what am I doing?
Right.
What am I doing if I'm not on TV right now? What am I doing if, I'm not popular the way I thought I would be at this point in my career? So it kind of takes that shame off of it. Mm-hmm. So you just feel looser. I feel like I'm rambling. Did I answer your question?
Yes, ma'am, you did. And not only you answered it and then some, which is an amazing thing. It's good. I'm just sitting here listening. I feel like you are preaching to me. Because it's what you said too, just the latest thing that you said, it removes the shame, but then it reapplies the purpose, so it allows you to get back clear. And as you said, I've been through that where you feel like, well, things have always come easy. I think about that with my career. Things have come, you certainly have worked for it,
right?
But you feel like it just flowed and without even trying, you were naturally in your flow, as they say, or naturally in flow. And then you either make an adjustment, you evolve, or something you want to do that's different. And then everything just changes. And it's hard to understand when you get to that point. And to, like you say, be centered in, well, who am I really? And what do I really want to do? Because I know with me, sometimes it's like, was I just doing that because it came easily to me?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, that is so true. Absolutely.
Wonderful. So how do you handle you sort of spoke to this already, but how do you handle the pressures of working in an industry or having worked in an industry that sort of discriminates against aging and women of color and those kinds of things, being in acting or Hollywood?
Entertainment, Hollywood, the machine, how it's set up and kind of the certain rules that it sets up, none of it's real. Mm-hmm. It's just not real. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that to trivialized. There are definitely, when we see there are issues with diversity, I'm not saying that, but that's just a microcosm of
Society overall.
society. Yeah, I mean, that's just a microcosm of what we live in. When I say none of that is real, um, to me, I just have to put everything back to identity and what I'm called here to do. And to me, none of that is real because all of that operates from the idea of fear. So keeping everyone so scared. And I have these conversations all the time particularly with my actor friends. We have these conversations all the time where it's like, well, now it's about, if they're going to cast someone and they have the option between someone that has a large social media following and someone who doesn't. Well, it's not about the talent. It's the person that has the bigger social media following
Really?
who's going to get, because they want that built-in marketing. You have people that feel like we just got off of a pilot season. I just went into a pilot season literally right before pilot season. I fired my manager. Well, you don't go into pilot season without representation because then you're going to miss whole pilot season. If you miss whole pilot season and you're not auditioning, I don't care. I have to do what's right for me where I'm at. So to me, none of it is real. And if I refuse to be controlled by fear.
Right.
And actually, to me, the things that they are saying that are, I guess, quote unquote, a problem. I'm Black, I'm a female, and I'm over 35. Mm-hmm. People tell you, well, honey, if you haven't hit your stride now or made it now, you're not going to make it. And I'm like, all of these are gifts to me. I'm a richer person than I was when I was 20-year-old Kyra. Mm-hmm. I have more of a sense of who I am, which that's reflected in my work. And then you see kind of, I hate to say that everything happens in waves. So you have, the Tarajis and you have Shonda Rhimes and you have Viola Davis. So you see all of this happening, beautiful, complex, smart, rich life experiences. That's all very attractive. So right. I'm not going to take the fear, part of that and say that it's a deficit. So to me, none of it's not real. It's just not real.
It's just not real. It's make believe. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That's a good answer. So how would you say in the past year, what would you say, I should say, is the greatest lesson you've learned about yourself in the past year? It sounds like you've definitely been doing some self-work, some things that you're becoming aware of about yourself. So I would love to know just in the past year.
Oh my gosh. In the past year, I have to say I have completely surprised myself because I'm like, girl, who are you? Like, I did. I started doing a lot of self-work. I started going to weekly therapy. I started an artist program that was really helping me as an artist with my voice, and just journaling, all that. I'm like, I never did any of that. Mm-hmm. Like, that was never me. I'm like, I don't have time for that. I got to get stuff done. Right. I don't have time for that. And, what I learned is, I think everything that I thought was wrong with me that needed to be fixed, it's what makes me me. Mm. And it's actually okay. And that's actually all my ambition, all my creative energy, all the things that I'm constantly just pursuing, just trying to just get it right and just make it happen. All of that is really going to come from me being in touch with the parts that I was thinking I needed to fix or that I didn't want people to see. And I think we talk about authenticity all the time. I mean, that's, people who have a certain level of self-awareness, especially when you're creating, you have to create something that's authentic and that just has a voice that's really tuned into who you are. And what I learned this year was that authenticity is important, but sometimes we're being authentic to a false identity. Mm. So I had to get clear on my true identity. I was being very authentic to my false identity.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, and just to give myself a break and just to realize I'm just far more courageous than I thought. I'm very resilient. Um, and I just keep digging until I get it right. Like I just keep asking myself why. Like I just keep
Mm-hmm.
going. And so for that, yeah, for that, I'm proud of myself. I mean, now don't get it wrong. I'm also ready. Like, okay, God, I got it.
I
Like part of
got it.
God is
I'm
like,
ready. Let's
it's
make it
in
happen.
here. I got it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So it's,
Right.
that push and pull, but yeah, I'm far more courageous than I've given myself credit for. And yeah, just getting in touch to not who I think I am, not who I am from my parents' point of view or from society or from my gift, but just for real, just me. And I just think so many people are scared to do that, and they go their whole life and they never do that. So look at me doing it now. So
There you
yeah.
go. And how important is that self work? I mean, whether someone's in the industry or not, I just think it's so important for us to do. And many of us aren't courageous enough to ask, like you said, why, or to even acknowledge that there might be something to question.
Yeah, you know, it is so, so important. And because I'm naturally an analytical person, I'm a critical thinker, I'm smart. I always thought I kind of got stuff. I'm like, yeah, I know what my things are. I know whatever. But when you're constantly just in your own loop, you're still doing things based on your own narrative, your own story. So it's so important when you're doing self work specifically to get outside of yourself where you have another person, whether it's a therapist, whether it's an artist support group. You need something that's just not you in your head keeping your same story, because you're keeping yourself trapped. And it's true, a lot of people, particularly, as a Black woman, that's something just that I'm very close to. And so if, when I look at the women around me, just kind of how our culture is built, we just never do it because we just don't want, it's like we don't want to sit in the discomfort. It's going to feel uncomfortable for a while. It's going to feel awkward, and we never want to do that. And and you have to take the risk of, because everyone in my family they know I've been doing this work and this and that. And, someone actually made the comment just the other day to me, because I had gotten emotional about something. But I let myself be okay. Then I'm very in touch with my feelings, and I'm allowing myself to be honest. And that can be perceived as a weakness.
Right.
And so the comment was, well, Kyra's having a difficult time right now. No, I'm not. This is part of the work. It may look awkward to you. It may look whatever, but I'm sitting in discomfort that you're scared to do,
Right.
that you haven't done. And so I think when people release that, whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or not, I think that's so important. I think that's why our country is losing its mind right now. I think when you look at the political landscape, and when you look at healthcare, and you look at Flint, and you look at, when you just look at just all this stuff, to me, it's all an identity problem. Everyone is having their own little personal identity crisis, because if you can't give compassion to yourself, empathy to yourself, how are you going to give that to another person?
People,
and
right.
that's why it's crazy town. Like, it's complete crazy town right now.
Right.
Because our society, to me, our society, it feeds off of us not having this personal awareness or identity. It feeds off of that, so that then just the few people who are just running everything, they can just keep doing it.
Control.
Keep control, and we're completely unaware. And so, that's so important, just on every level in everyday life, whether you consider yourself, a highly operating creative person or not. Just on a personal soul level, we all should be doing it, and we shouldn't trick ourselves into thinking we're doing it by ourselves, because it's impossible. You have to go outside of yourself.
Right.
Period.
I'm all about that. Support is sexy. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So let me ask you my question. Next question for you is, what do you feel like is next for you? And I will just again show you the card. People can't see it, but I feel like it's a clean slate. I literally wrote clean slate for you. Just watching your video on your website, which people must go watch at KairaAkita.com. But just seeing you go through that experience and that expression, and I just feel like what's next for you is a clean slate. But I'll let you answer the question now that I've answered it for you.
Thank you. What's next for me? The word integration comes to mind. I think at first, my new enlightenment and my self-work, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to kind of simplify how I am. Because you know me, I always have ideas for days and 4 or 5 things going on. But that really is part of who I am. And so I'm like, how do I integrate just a new approach to that? Make it lighter, make it more gentle. Oh my gosh, I sound just like a woo-woo therapist person. This is so great. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's okay. That means you're embodying it.
So how do I integrate that into all these different projects and ideas and things, and just make it so it's not just a heavy thing? I think before it was really coming from a heavy place, to be honest. So what's really next for me is, when you say clean slate, it's clean slate and clearing the slate. So I am actually my number one product. Like, what is my company? Like, it's me. So I'm not really sure exactly what that's going to look like yet. I do know that this experience that I've had the past year, really doing this self-work, I feel really called to give some type of voice or platform for that, along with just the work that I'm always going to do, that I'm always doing as an actor. Just because you don't see me on TV, I'm auditioning all the time. I'm working all the time,
That's part of the work too, that people don't understand.
That you don't see. I mean, there's so much work. So I'm still doing that. I'm still actively, creating content and writing content, but I'm not building a whole house around it. I'm just being a little gentle. I'm not, as we've collaborated, together, and I've had my production company, Reality Revolution, that I started in 2012. I don't need that company to create content to be who I am, if that makes sense. I am the content. I am the creative. So part of me is just really figuring out just scale of things and integrating how can I be the most productive and be in a happy space. And so for me right now, it's really about focusing on the work that I love to do as an actor and a writer and creator, like in my bubble doing that, and then really giving voice to this space that I've been in, that I feel that I want to share with other people. And I'm calling it the inspired interim. Really finding, how do you find that feel between the space between being and becoming? I think that there are I think that there has to be other people that have had the experience that I have. I just told you a little bit about my childhood and coming up. Some people have a really rough time, and when they're pursuing their dreams, they didn't have the family support system, or they never thought they were going to be anything, or they weren't impressive. That's not my story. I've been impressive since I was 6 years old.
Right.
I was turning 37 in June. That's a long time to not be where you imagined your impressive self to be.
Right.
And so there's a lot of stuff that happens in there. And so I think that there has to be other people like me that I feel called to speak to, that you never doubted that you were going to, quote unquote, make it, even though there's not one pinnacle. You know what I mean? You never doubted you were going to make it. It's just, can I survive the interim? Can I survive this interim? And so I really want to create a platform that speaks to that, not just for other people, but that's just part of my work and healing too, for me to be able to have a place to express that as well. So I'm not really sure, long answer short, I'm not really sure what that's going to look like, but that's a very huge part of where I feel pulled to just like express and put that out there in the world.
That's beautiful. And I think it's like you said, you may not know what it looks like, but I think you have a sense of what it feels like. And I feel like sometimes that's as important, like this is what I want to feel like as I do this work or create this work or release this work. So that sounds equally as important.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that, because I have to I have to tell you in all transparency, because I know when you approached me about doing this, part of me was like, I don't really have the business going on right now. Like, I'm not really, I feel like I've scaled back, how we met and how we started working together. I'm like, honestly, that's more so a concept than it is actually a working business at this point, So I'm like, am I entrepreneur right now? Yeah. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, am I? But I think that's why I just had to go back to just, my spirit statement and my purpose. And even before I knew what entrepreneurship was, I was that. I was a leader. I was creative. I wanted to impact. So that's just in me. Mm-hmm. That's just in me. That's just going to keep unfolding. That's my new, I'm still a branding person. So that's my tagline for myself. Always unfolding.
That's like, right.
It just is. It just is. So,
and I think, of course, sometimes people see us in different ways than we see ourselves. So, I was like, oh, of course you have to be on the show. What are you talking about? Of course you're doing, because my thing is, there's entrepreneurship in the realm of having a business, setting up shop and that kind of thing. But I believe it is evolving. The term, I should say, is evolving so much more into the things that you're speaking about. It's really, how can I be creative? How can I contribute? I don't know if this is just an age thing. We're all getting older and really being like, well, what am I really leaving to this world? What kind of spaces am I really creating? So I think that's important to discuss too as an entrepreneur, beyond, my business makes X amount per year, or my business does this. That part of it is great, but there's so much more in being, it really is about being creative and being a passionate person and offering something to the world.
That is so true. And Elayne, as women, we are the embodiment of creativity, which means right. We're naturally entrepreneur. We set the tone. We really, really do set the tone.
Right.
So, I love that you put it like that, because that's so true. That's who we are naturally. It's just tapping into that and being comfortable with that, not looking the way you think it's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. Because I do feel you will be rewarded for this hard work that most people don't want to do. That just really tough. Look at yourself in the mirror. Whose baggage am I carrying? Am I carrying my mama's, my daddy's? Right. Get all that out the way. We're going to be rewarded for it. So don't get it twisted. I mean, I'm still going to be amazing and ruling the world.
I know, that's right. I know. You're like, this is just a little realignment here.
Yeah. So yeah.
I love it. So one of the quotes that I wanted to ask you about, I saw it, I believe it was on your website, and that you just mentioned here, is this idea that you're always unfolding. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that quote means to you, or that phrase.
Oh, I've spent 36 years trying to fix stuff. So to me, unfolding represents the complete opposite of that. Fixing how I thought I needed to be this amazing performer, mogul. Like, my whole approach to it really wasn't serving me. And so the idea of unfolding, for me, it represents, number one, Kyra, I know you think you're smart and I know you think you know everything, but you really don't know everything. And you really don't know what it's going to look like. And that's what unfolding is. Like, you don't know it's like, it starts off as like a little bitty piece of paper, and you just keep unfolding, until I don't know what that looks like.
Right.
So that represents for me relinquishing control at a certain level. It also makes me really, really tap into my spirituality and the idea that God created me. He created me this way for a reason. Mm-hmm. The good parts, what I see as the bad parts, whatever, like, it's all a reason. So that's the complete opposite of fixing.
Right.
Because I'm like, girl, you can't be talking about you going to do A, B, and C, and you you can't even get out the bed at a certain time. Don't you know when you read all the articles, it says, well, every successful entrepreneur, they're up by 4 a.m. and they have their hour workout and whatever,
right.
and whatever. And I'm like, damn, I ain't
Like,
never
that
gonna
is
make
not me, right? Never gonna make it.
I've never. So like all these things I perceived as bad habits, it was really just not understanding identity, not coming from the right place, that fixing that I'm inherently wrong or need to be fixed in order to be successful or to see myself in the full vision of myself. So that unfolding is so important. And unfolding also helps as far as my acting career, as far as a producer, a writer, entrepreneur. It helps me stop and take inventory if I'm trying to make decisions from a place of, but I got to make this happen right now.
Right.
But this is what has to happen right now because it's been X amount of time. I've had this production company since 2012 and I had an Indiegogo campaign and people helped support me and I still have not made one damn show.
Mm-hmm.
That's what will get into your mind. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That's what will get into your mind. But meanwhile, if you step back and embrace the unfolding, it doesn't allow you to then use something as a distraction that you're just sitting there and trying to make it work. And it leaves you open to other opportunities. I was just actually approached about a freelance producing opportunity that I couldn't have packaged it more perfectly if I tried.
Right. And it's because you were open to.
Yeah, it's because I was open to it. And they weren't like, well, do you have a company? And where's your website? And what has already been
right. All the things that you worry about.
All the things that I worried about. None of that. Mm-hmm. They're like, I know you. I see you. I think this is in your wheelhouse. I want to hear whatever pitches you have in mind. Let's see if we can pull something together. And it will be your show if it works.
Right.
So the unfolding is just really just like relaxing and releasing. Mm-hmm. It just really is, but that's impossible to do if you haven't done the work up until that, because your whole thing is about fixing it and making it happen. And, the hustle and on the grind. Like, I hate that. Like, I hate people like rise and grind. I'm like, I can't rise and have some water, meditate. Exactly. I gotta rise and grind.
Rise and stretch and relax and get my mind right. Just
I'm like, I can't. I'm like, my mind is already, I'm already a crazy person, how my mind operates. It's so many different things. I got to rise and grind too.
Right.
So I got to release. I got to let things unfold. Like I really do. So yeah, unfolding that's a really, really big theme for me.
I love that. That's powerful. Rise and grind. It's so funny. Right. You're so right, though. It's so everywhere in this culture, especially with social media, this culture of go out, get it. There's part of that. But like you said, there's a part of it, too. That's like if I'm just in motion and doing the things that I want to do, things start to come to you that you could not have even have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. So what does your support network look like in your business or in your personal life? And how do you utilize it?
I feel really, really, really lucky. I have a small inner circle of like 3 or 4 girlfriends who have known me a long time through a lot of, reinventions. And I mean, they support me and love me, but they honestly don't care about the things I'm doing. They just care about me.
Right.
So that's always nice. Like, you know what I mean? So that's always really, really, really nice. And then I feel like I also have an extended artist circle that it doesn't have to be that I talk to these people every day or that we're necessarily working on a project together. It's people like you who I feel like I see you so clearly and I see your spirit and I admire you and want to support you and root for you. You're actually reflecting me back on myself. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, there are a lot of people who are not who they say they are. And a lot of those people have the platforms. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Right. And so to me, that mutual admiration society of artist support, when I see certain people, particularly women that look like me, I see what's ticking. I get it because I'm doing it over here too. And
Right.
I'm like, we're next. I'm like, we're next, baby. Just keep doing that. Like, you know what I mean? I see it.
Yeah.
So that's just so beautiful, beautiful to see. And the last one would be my husband. I feel like he's my life partner. He's my creative partner, even though I am being very clear about finding my own voice. And there are certain things I'm going to do that have nothing to do with him, but he's the one that's in the trenches with me. Poor thing.
God bless his heart.
Bless his heart. Like every single day, every single moment, like I'm like inescapable. Like, you know what I mean? So he's definitely, he represents like a really great masculine energy for me.
I love it. So I know we have to start wrapping up. Thank you for taking the time in the middle of your day to chat with me. It's been so fun. You're amazing, of course. So last question, one of the last questions. If you think over your life and your career and your work, and you had a chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
Elayne.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh, this question. Oh, mm. I would say, mm, I would say my mother. I, her support, her support is critical because I think all daughters want the support and approval of their mothers. And I know both my mom and I are both two very strong-willed, creative, borderline crazy women. So I know that's politically incorrect to say crazy, but you know what I mean. So I've always known that she loves me and that she supports me and is proud of me. Um, I would just want to thank her for just being, like just being, and for having enough presence to say, I want to expose my kids to something different. I want to expose them to something different. She created a completely different world for me, that was very real for me, but that was not real for how she grew up and how a lot of people around her grew up. And that's just her, that's her just being. Yeah.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you, Miss Kyra. So tell us now, how can we support you? Is the website you want us to go to, or is it just to look out for the things you're doing after your clean slate? Is it social media? I mean, and I plan to include all of this in the notes on the actual page so people will be able to go to any links, but anything that you want to tell us to look out for, be aware of.
Ah, yes, I am on the World Wide Web. You can
On the internet machine.
you know what, you could just go to my personal site, KairaAkita.com. Yeah, and anything that's happening is gonna bloom from there. So
Awesome.
yeah.
And lastly, a parting piece of advice from you to our audience.
Have the highest opinion of yourself. Have the highest opinion of yourself. I keep talking about identity. That's what that's all connected to for me. And you have the opportunity to choose your identity, to really, really dig in and choose the highest possible opinion of yourself. And that's what God, spirit, universe, whatever speaks to you, that's what we're here to do. And I think when you do that, everything else that you're trying to put together, you're creative, you're ambitious, you're making businesses, you're doing things, all of that will come into play. Just sit in that discomfort and really figure out how to choose that identity for yourself.
Miss Kyra, thank you so much. This is wonderful. Yay!
Yes!
Thank you. Hold on just one second.
Okay, okay.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. And I do hope that you got some inspiration from it. And the challenge is for you to do at least one thing. Take one thing from the episode, at least one thing. You can always do more, but at least one thing that will help you move one step closer to your dream. Whether that's launching a business, writing a book, whatever that thing is that you want to do, take something from this episode and move one step closer. And what I'll also ask of you, if you can tell me what you think about the episodes, what we've been doing, what you want to hear, what you like, what you experience while you're listening, go over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let me know what's going on. What are you thinking? What are you feeling about the show? What else can I do to be of service to you, which is what this is all about, to be of support to you. That's our buzzword, right? You can also go to my website, elaynefluker.com/podcast. So that's ELAYNEFLUKER.com/podcast. Hear more episodes there. Also have a bunch of great videos, tons of information. It's where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, and it's where I'd love to connect with you. So again, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your support. And the most important thing I want you to remember is having it all does not mean doing it all alone. So now, go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.